Everybody to Sports Shorts Daily. Ronnie Rance here with you alongside TK Tommy Chrysan. Sports Shorts Daily presented by LaBear's Casino. TK coming to us from Court Street Cafe in Port Allen. Check out Court Street Cafe for breakfast and lunch on Facebook and Instagram. Today on Sports Shorts Daily presented by LaBear's, we're going to talk a little bit about the New Orleans Saints. They've got a preseason game in the Dome this coming Friday. They had practice yesterday in the Dome. Nearly 20,000 fans turned out for that one in the Superdome. They also, will we see Winston? Will we see Dalton? I would expect that we'll see Dalton at least. Winston's expected to return back to practice early this week. Also, LSU football. We know that John Emery Jr., the number one running back on the depth chart, will not play in the first two games. That means that important game against Florida State in the Superdome. No John Emery Jr. This is just a saga that continues. We'll tell you what we know, and we'll tell you our thoughts on that. Also, LSU football had a big scrimmage the other day on Saturday morning, had all the former Tiger, alum and were invited to go. We know Burt Jones was there. We know lots of former LSU alumni were there. They got a chance to hear from Brian Kelly, have lunch, watch a 50-play scrimmage until the weather shut it down. We'll give you our report on how between Daniels and Nussmeier, who had the best scrimmage. Also, the Florida State, believe it or not, plays this Saturday. You'll get a sneak peek again as Florida State takes on, was it Duquesne, Tommy? Taking on Duquesne?
The Duquesne Dukes from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. It's a private school in the Northeast Conference. I looked, there's no line yet that I could find real quick this morning, but, Seminoles will be playing on the ACC network, 4 o'clock Saturday. If you LSU fans want to get that old scouting report, as they say.
By the way, Duquesne known as a decent basketball team, but not I don't hear nothing about football. Also, Tom Brady, some crazy rumors about why Tom Brady is not at camp. Some of them have some credence. We'll tell you about that, as Tom Brady still has yet now over 2 weeks since he has been at camp. And could this be potentially the best wide receiver core 1 through 7 that LSU's ever had? That's what some people are saying. We'll get into that and a whole lot more. Let's bring in TK, who's on the mend, 2 weeks now, recovered from total knee replacement. He'll be 100%, we're believing, next week and be on the road. I'm sure you're happy about that, to get out of the friendly confines of your home. All right, so Tommy, let's go to the Saints, because they scrimmaged. They had their preseason game Friday night in Green Bay. If you took Green Bay minus 3.5, you were a winner with the late score in the fourth. They lose by 10. Biggest takeaway from the Saints on Friday?
Well, most of the people on the field are not going to be on the 53-man roster. Ian Book played the whole game. We'll talk about that in a minute when we talk about the Saints quarterback situation. And, I think it was just glad to get it over. I mean, right, lots of articles last week. Got to do away with the preseason, because everybody says, last Tuesday and Wednesday, the Saints and the Packers had these controlled practice scrimmages together. And everybody said that they were pretty even as far as the teams went. But everybody says that you get so much more out of that than you get out of a preseason game. Because when you get to these preseason games, there's only one thing everybody cares about. Don't get anybody hurt. Especially, like the Saints, they know 49 or 50 of the guys that are on their final roster. They're just trying to narrow down a couple of spots at the end. Well, they don't want any of them guys to be hurt on a preseason game when you got 17 regular season games to go, starting in September 11 for the Saints. So my biggest takeaway is nobody that's important got hurt. And number 2, you got one more preseason game in the Dome. You Saints fans, get out the black and gold. You'll be able to go to the Dome Friday night against the LA Chargers. And Jameis Winston will be back at practice this week. That's been reported. I read that this morning. So I think as we're going to have Sports Shorts Daily again Wednesday morning, Friday morning, we'll know more about who might quarterback, how much might they quarterback. But I got to believe you got to get Winston a series or 2. And if he gets out there for a series and it's a 3 and out, maybe you give him another series. I just think you got to get him out there a little bit, I would think, but we'll wait and see. But preseason 3, the best thing about the Saints preseason is Saturday morning it's going to be over. And then they can get that roster set, begin preparations. They open with the Falcons, an NFC South opponent, obviously, and get things off to a good start.
The Yeah, looking forward to seeing the full Monty out there. I love the fact, by the way, for the New Orleans Saints who play Tampa Bay the second game of the year, the 18th, I believe. The second game of the year that we've got this Tom Brady controversy going on right now. Look, he's going to be back obviously before that game, but this isn't a normal Tom Brady situation, right? Normally he's the first guy at camp, last guy to leave, the hardest worker, the whole 9 yards. It's like a coach on the field. And for this distraction, for him to be out of there for 2 weeks, people wondering why, for him not being there to sync up with his receivers, and like that's got to have some sort of negative impact, at least for a minute, right? I mean, last year, and we know they've been a slow starter the last couple of years. So maybe the Saints can luck up and catch him again. I mean, they've beaten him 4 out of the last 5 times they played with Brady at quarterback. Maybe they won't quite hit their stride till October, and the Saints can catch him still, trying to kumbaya things on the 18th of September.
Well, I think a lot of these teams are, the Saints, the Buccaneers, whomever, they just know they got to get to the playoffs. Okay. It's a marathon, 17 games, a couple of open dates in there. They just want to play their best football next January and February. Okay. Late December. And I think they're, without saying it, they're all getting, they don't care if Brady's in camp. Now, you know what Brady can do. We know what Jameis Winston can do, and you can rip through all the league rosters and find them guys that what they could do. So I think the focus is not on preseason. It's not on the early part of the regular season. It's like, how can we get in position to make a run at the end of the season after Thanksgiving, and end up in the playoffs where anything can happen. That's been proven. And one of the big things we talked on the radio the other day and Sports Shows Daily last week about getting rid of the preseason. I mean, there's a lot of talk about that in the NFL to get rid of these preseason games because they're trying to weigh what you get out of it versus, what could be the negative. And, again, it's all about winning the Super Bowl, and they don't care about a game for the Saints Friday night in the Dome against the Chargers.
So let me ask you this. There's a lot of people that think that preseason is a money-making scam, that the preseason games are a money-making scam. I no doubt about it. No doubt about it. The owners want preseason to make the money, to not have, to sell some tickets, to not be able to have to pay players their full freight for that. But at the same time, Tommy, do you believe that there's look, it's football. Football's not the same as other sports. There's value in practicing and scrimmaging and playing some games and developing that depth and developing the other players. Yes, it's a moneymaker, and maybe they only need 2 games and not 4 like they used to play. But I do think that there's a need for preseason football.
Well, and the other thing is, the whatever revenue they got, they're going to replace that somewhere else with TV or the patches on the practice uniforms now that they all got. They'll figure out a way to replace that revenue because, again, they don't want anybody hurt in August. It's all about the playoffs, and I mean that's what they're thinking about it. And I just don't understand, people that get all fired up because there's no correlation between doing well in the preseason and doing well in the regular season, or doing poor in the preseason and then doing poor in the regular. We got enough data to sort through. There's no predictability there that's worth hanging your hat on at this point in time. And Chance says, Bart Scott said the Saints had the most complete roster in the NFL. On paper, the Saints are the best team in the NFC South. I'll say it right now. August 22nd, TK says Saints will win the NFC South. Book it, mark it down, go get your NFC South odds because Tampa's, here and there, the wind blowing in the wind with the Tom Brady thing. The Panthers are not good. The Falcons are not good. Saints are going to win the South. And if they win the South and they get in the playoffs, going back to what we said a little earlier, anything can happen.
All right, so just came out NESN reporting they now have details on what Tom Brady and Gisele Bündchen were doing over the last 11 days. By the way, all kind of rumors that Tom Brady was recording the Masked Singer.
He was a voter, like in the Masked Singer thing, one of these Fox music. I ain't never watched 1 minute of any of them, nor will I watch them unless you're singing, Ronnie. Then I would watch. But So what's this report you got?
Yeah, so it's saying that he just returned back this morning. Tom Brady returned back after an 11-day hiatus. Brady's break, which began on August the 11th, sparked rumors of personal family health issues, marriage drama, and of course, retirement. There even was speculation about Brady being on The Masked Singer. Brady himself hasn't revealed reasons for his time away, but Aaron Wilson of Pro Football Network offered new details, claiming that he was in the Bahamas, basically with Giselle and the family and that sort of thing. So the rumors that were reported yesterday that he was in the Bahamas, they're sticking with that story. So, I thought, quite honestly, that this was so un-Brady-like. And I talked to another coach who actually had some dealings with him many, many years ago. He really thought that if Tom Brady was stepping away from camp for 2 weeks in the middle of camp, that there might be something there. Like he's not 100% healthy. But the idea of retiring or unretiring, I thought was maybe the fire had gone out of him. Maybe he'd had a few tough days of practice, didn't like the kumbaya-ness or something, and just was like, let me rejuvenate my batteries. Let me step away. Let me reevaluate. He thought it was maybe a physical thing, that he wasn't feeling 100% healthy. Of course, there was elaborate speculation. You heard the Dan Patrick show. They were the ones talking a bunch about the Masked Singer. Well, he's got this Fox contract waiting for him when he retires. Masked Singer's recording right now. Could he be involved with that, in some way, shape, or form? People were all shocked and speculating, like we all are, why he would step away from 2 weeks in the middle of camp when he's never done that before at any point in his career, Tommy. And he could have done that many, many times in the past, and he didn't.
Yeah, it's a little bit bizarre and strange, but it's Tom Brady. He moves the needle, as they say. He gets the attention. He gets the clicks. He gets the play button. I mean, that's what Tom Brady's all about. So I think that that's what it's all about. And there's not a lot else to talk about until the NFL really starts playing from an NFL perspective. And look, I promise you one thing: the Cleveland Browns and Roger Goodell are happy that all this Brady stuff's flying around, because they're not talking about Deshaun Watson. You see the T-shirts being sold outside the Cleveland game the other day?
What was it?
Big orange, Cleveland Brown color, says, "Bitch, give me a massage." Hey, hey, he's gonna have to live with that kind of stuff, just like the Astros had to live with the banging the cans the first year or two they came back, but it'll go away.
But that's the thing. That's my point, is that, now the Astros, nobody talks about it. It was around for.
It's funny you bring that up. 3 times this year, Alex Bregman's been on second base and the pitcher dropped the ball for the automatic balk to give him third because they're worried about what he's doing out there on second. Three times this year. 3 different teams. They're all thinking he's still doing that kind of stuff. And 3 times, he comes second, you just drop the ball, it's a balk. Okay, guy on base. And they're doing that on purpose to Bregman, who's been hot. He's been really hot last couple of weeks. Astros did win yesterday after losing the first 2 to a key series with the Braves this weekend. But, man, it has gone away, though. But, again, back to what we said, the NFL is glad that Tom Brady and the Masked Singer in the Bahamas, they're glad that's the story and not where's Deshaun Watson this week.
Boy, talk about the ultimate respect for Bregman when you automatically assume he's picking up your signals and that you don't have a better system. My goodness. Boy, don't be so negative, Stephen Miller. Death taxes, Michael Thomas being injured is now an unstoppable event. Well, I mean, my God. I mean, come on, Steve. Don't put that out there. Maybe he stepped away to allow other QB to get reps because he's considering actual retirement. Listen, I don't think, Byron, I love you, brother. I don't think that Tom Brady gives a rat's you-know-what about anybody else getting reps for the future. I don't think Drew Bledsoe gave a crap when he was in camp back in the day. I just think, hey, I guess he's at a phase of his career and his life where he's prioritized, he maybe had a good deal and they gave him an upgrade on the suite at the resort he was going to. If he came during those dates, maybe it was a slow time. Everybody else was back in school and the Bradys could have the place to themselves. I don't know. But that's wild. Now my theory of the Tampa Bay Bucks and Tom Brady being a little rusty by the 18th of September is out the window. It's already August 22nd. There's plenty enough time for Tom to be good to go. All right, let's move on to a frustrating topic, and that is this John Emery business with the LSU Tigers. their number one running back who didn't play all of last year. And we kept thinking for about half a season, he's coming back next week, right? He's coming back next week. He has some academic issues. They can't by law, LSU, go deep dive into why and all that sort of stuff. But at the same time, we know now that John Emery out of Destrehan High School, who literally sat out every single game last year, that's not enough. He now has to sit out 2 more games this year. And, of course, one of those games being Florida State, which is allowing Kane, the Penn State transfer, to look pretty good in a scrimmage the other day. I mean, goodness gracious, Tommy. I mean, like, either you're in school or you're out of school, you're eligible, you're not eligible. This is weird to me. I haven't seen an academic one that has carried over for beyond a year.
Well, it's kind of strange. I mean, he's out there practicing, he's in the meetings, he's lifting the weights, he's doing everything that football players do, except he can't play in the game. Now, I know there was a clearinghouse problem, and it stems back even into the pandemic days and some family things he had going on. He had a death in the family and others that got, really sick with COVID-19. And, somewhere along the line, the paperwork's not completely right. Well, why ain't it right by now? I get it. Okay, last year was an issue, but why not clear it up by now? And why 2 weeks? Well, makes you wonder, did something get cleared up 12 months ago and they said, okay, boom, rubber stamp, but you get 12 months, you're eligible. And that 12-month window just happens to be after they play 2 games. What they play Southern on the 10th of September in Tiger Stadium. That would be game 2. For LSU, with the Sunday night, the 4th playing Florida State. So I don't know. It is a little bit strange. And, LSU's got the, $80 gazillion academic center. Somebody got to figure this out.
With the way the academic center is set up, the way that they have at their disposal, Tommy, I mean, like, especially if you're a scholarship stud football or basketball player, I just don't understand how, in this day and age, how the handheld hold can't be better. We can't just, who the trouble players are. Who the ones that need some extra love and care, whether it's because they don't have the mental capacity that other people have, they've got some kind of learning disability, or they're just flat out, if it's just lazy type thing. But if it's a lazy issue of just not going to class or taking care of business, and it's just straight, like, just not doing it, then you have to make a decision as a coach. Do we care enough about this player to be in our program or not? Like, at some point, there's a frustration level. Like, well, if you're not going to help yourself, but if it's a player you need, and it's a player that's really, really good, like a 5-star running back from your state, and it's then you got to do the extra. You got to hold their hand. You got to send that academic student player with them to make sure they're doing what needs to be done and double checking everything. And I'm just shocked in this day and age, with all the resources that they have, that still players aren't eligible from an academic reason. You can't do anything about pot smoking and drug testing and things like that, but you sure can make sure that guys are minimally doing what they need to do to be academically eligible. Because nowadays, I mean, like, everybody's a sports administration major. Everybody's a general studies guy. I mean, like, they can get you the classes at least to keep you eligible. It may not help you long-term later in life, with a job and a career because of what you took, but it can at least keep you eligible. And I'm just surprised these things happen still.
Well, and with today's modern technology in this world, why things don't get resolved quicker. The whole world has sped up due to the internet. Okay. Medicine has advanced. My total knee replacement surgery, if that's 15 years ago, I'm laid up for 6 months. I hope to be, week 4, I hope to be back to normal or very close to it. So the whole world has sped up. Why can't you get he's eligible, he's not, it's kind of strange, and maybe we'll find out more one day about what this is all about. I don't know, but it's just kind of a story that kind of makes you go, really? Like, why? How can this be? I mean, it's just kind of a little bizarre, to say the least.
Yeah, we all know that it was somewhat related to family issues, COVID, et cetera. Chance pointing out COVID compassion for all except John Emery. Yes, this is not a school or NCAA problem with all the resources that student athletes have academically. It's flat out being lazy if you're not eligible. It always drives me crazy. It drove me crazy. Look, even I've got a daughter who's 22 years old, graduated from LSU. She's in the MBA program right now over there. And, there's many times where, you have to say to someone, and obviously she's got her stuff together more than a lot of some of these football players do academically. And it's sometimes you have to say, listen, you've got to take care of your own things, right? You've got to, you've got to look. I could probably fix this problem for you, but I want you to have to do the hard work. And so I know there's some of that comes. You don't want to just completely cripple these kids, but at the same time, if you got somebody with them that's kind of checking in with them constantly, making sure, and again, this all comes down to if it's a player you care to keep in your program. If it's somebody you don't care about, or you realize, I've reached a frustration level. If they're going, that's their own fault. That's one thing. But clearly John Emery's somebody that coaches want in their program. And the fact that we're still talking about it and it hasn't been resolved tells me that it got screwed up bad a long time ago.
You would think that in this day and time, you could say, okay, what is the problem? What is the solution? And when can we get it fixed by? Instead of just hanging around waiting for the email to pop in your box or waiting for the text message. I mean, I don't know. It's kind of it's bizarre. Says, I don't know what other word to use.
Steven says, does John Emery have these issues if he was a starting running back at Alabama? And I would say that probably a lot of these issues happen during Coach O's watch, and we know that things got weird and things got loose. And after the national championship season, there was a lot of dysfunction and confusion. And during that time. By the way, when I went down to Miami for vacation a few days earlier last week, and on my flight on the way down was Coach O, and I had a chance to talk to him in the airport for a little bit. And he's going around. He's got 3 sons that are all coaching at UL, Tulane, in Miami as on the staffs as support staff. And so he's just kind of going around watching them, checking in on them. He lives about 2 or 3 condo buildings north of the Fontainebleau Hotel on the 37th floor in Miami on the beach. And so he's just living his best life, beach time, hanging out at the Fontainebleau, where it's being run by former punter Patrick Fisher, who was an LSU punter. He's one of the managers over there at the Fontainebleau Hotel. So, I mean, he's just kind of spending that LSU money, living large, checking on his sons, watching a little football, spends a lot of time at the University of Miami going to their practice since he lives in Miami and his son's coaching there. And he, of course, he was a coach there 88 to 92, something like that.
Well, I saw some pictures of him out on the practice field with the Miami Hurricanes. Some of that got out on the internet. So we'll see.
All right, let's I'm going to get you Daniels and Nussmeier. That's the quarterback battle. They had only a 50-play scrimmage. I thought it was funny. Kelly stepped to the mic after the scrimmage, got cut short due to rain, and he said, never rains in Tiger Stadium, they say. And
well, they said Saturday night. Then they
Saturday night.
So, Coach, it wasn't Saturday night. It was Saturday morning.
Right.
Splitting hairs.
What was the you had people that were there. What did they say about the 2 quarterbacks?
Well, a lot of people were there, and I think the biggest thing, I talked to people, and we weren't all in the same conversation, like conversation here, then there with different people, and everybody thinks Nussmeier looks like the better quarterback. The eyeball test. We know he's got a stronger arm. He was out there last year. He played in that bowl game when he kind of didn't have to, and they're really impressed with him. And the football IQs there. His dad was an NFL quarterback, not a great NFL quarterback by any stretch, but he hung around. Actually, was on the Saints roster for a little while. But they're just saying, Jaden Daniels is good. He brings a lot. He's got numbers from Arizona State. He's a little more, able to run the ball and make some things happen. But people I talk to who follow this stuff closer, they've been out at practice, they were at the scrimmage. If they had to make the decision, Nussmeier would be the starting quarterback, but it's not up to them. It's up to Brian Kelly.
Nussmeier, we also have learned that is a favorite of Woodward, the AD, and that there was some pressure that Scott Woodward put on Coach O to give him that opportunity last year, that they didn't want to bench Max Johnson. And that story has come from the Coach O camp, not from him directly, but from others in there. And that Scott Woodward had the relationship with Nussmeier's dad and kind of wanted to see him get that opportunity. I would say that. Oh, by the way, there is no Miami Rants 13 floating around the internet. We didn't do the singing thing this time around. We were in Miami, but I'll be back in a couple months. We're going to have a little performance. Then we'll give it. We'll put some videos up. But anyway, I would think that very much, unlike Brian Kelly saying, I don't want to play two quarterbacks, and it may not be a true quarterback system, but I do believe that regardless of who the quarterback starts, that both quarterbacks will play a good bit this year. It may not necessarily be one, two series and then you're in, but it may be like, hey, we're going to get you your 4 games and play a lot of those 4 games, and then get you ready in case of an emergency, in case of an injury or a lack of production. But especially if Nussmeier isn't the starter, I expect them to play him a lot so that they can keep him engaged in the program, Tommy, for next year, because Daniels is a one and done guy, isn't he?
No, he's got 2 years.
Oh, does he have 2 years? Oh, okay. Well, makes it even more interesting.
My son and I were debating that on the phone last night, so maybe I went and looked it up. So he's got 2 years. People are talking lots of good stuff about Walker Howard.
Yeah.
He's going to get redshirted this year. And you got a couple guys committed in the future. But let me tell you, you got to have a bunch of good quarterbacks to win a championship. And we don't know how it's going to play out. We're not that smart, but the more good quarterbacks or great quarterbacks you have, the better.
It's definitely, the COVID thing just throws me off so much when it comes to eligibility, especially with baseball. It's even worse with all the transferring and everything. But I would say that it makes how Brian Kelly handles this situation. But floating around thinking he overtook T-Bob with the best Hawaiian shirt wearer in Baton Rouge. I don't wear the Hawaiian shirt as often as T-Bob does, but I will say this. I do have the best Hawaiian shirt. It's a Rougarou Hawaiian shirt, and it's the best one out there. And we sell them at the game, so you have to get yours next summer. But it's a situation, Tommy, with you've got to try to be more politically correct now with how you handle quarterbacks than maybe you want to be or how you used to be. And so Brian Kelly's philosophy of, I don't like playing 2 quarterbacks, kind of the old school. If you got 2, you don't have 1. Not so fast, my friend, because you don't want to be in a situation where you have to take a shirt off of Howard because you piss off one of the backup quarterback and he decides to transfer. And at the same time, you'd like to try to keep as many good players in your program as possible. So you may have to reevaluate that situation a little differently. That's just my 2 cents.
Well, and Brian Kelly, we know what his history says, but that he's going to do what's best for this football team this year. And if that means having 2 quarterbacks out there from time to time, and, they're going to win big the second week against Southern, maybe you tell one of the guys, hey, you're going to have that second half against Southern, no matter what's going on, and it's going to be yours. And if you throw 2 picks, it's still going to be yours, So we don't know what the inner workings are there, but I got to believe Brian Kelly will have a plan. Dude's been very successful wherever he's been. And we just got to wait and let it play out, as you like to say. Let it play out, and let's see what happens. It's fun to speculate. It's fun to talk. It's fun to guess. But, let it play out. Have some patience.
I'll tell you what, going to be very interesting. A lot of people are expecting it to be sooner rather than later, that the announcement could come. Maybe even this week is really the expectation because, going into that final week of prep and stuff, you really want to make sure your quarterback gets all the snaps. So we expect that the announcement could come today, tomorrow, something like that. We'll have a lot more for you on Wednesday, by the way. Interesting Wednesday. We'll have a little LSU baseball talk. We'll do a segment on that since Tommy and I will both be at Jay Johnson's press conference today, introducing his staff, the new staff, and we'll hear from them. So we'll have plenty to kind of talk about on Wednesday morning, talk a little LSU baseball. Me personally, I'm as excited about this LSU baseball season as I arguably have ever been. I think a lot of it has to do with just the unknown and what's to come. But on paper, this is going to be one of the more exciting rosters we've ever seen. Just the expectation and the fact that so many of them are newcomers to the program, and we haven't really seen them in an LSU uniform. It adds to the excitement. So really looking forward to that. We'll talk plenty of that on Wednesday morning. Let's see. One last thing before we get out of here. Jameis Winston, Andy Dalton, Tommy. They've got to play. They got to play Dalton this week, regardless, because no matter what happens with Winston, you got to get Dalton some reps and get him ready. They're holding him out as an insurance policy, but he's got to get on the field at some point.
Well, yeah, he played one series in that first preseason game.
Yeah.
I would suspect, Winston's going back to practice this week. I would suspect they got to try to get him some snaps, get Dalton some snaps, and maybe let Book have the second half, something like that. I agree with you. You got to get them guys on the field. Dalton's a 9-time Pro Bowler. He's been there, done that. And, they know what's going on at practice. We're not there every day. But I would think Friday night, hopefully you see a little bit of Jameis Winston, decent amount of Dalton, and let Book, go until the clock says 0. I think that's what we might see on Friday night, that game in the Dome against the Chargers.
By the way, have you ever watched The Masked Singer? You ever watched one episode of it?
No.
So The Masked Singer, which I got to be honest with you, straight up, for about 2 seasons, I was all in. I DVR'd it. I watched it. I didn't see season 1. I think it was season 2, season 3. And it was kind of cute at first. And the concept is that you've got you got famous people that are in these costumes, and you have no idea who they are. They disguise their voices, and the whole and they come out and they actually do sing. It's not like lip sync or anything like that. They actually do sing songs, and then the judges, there's 3 or 4 celebrity judges, and they try to guess who the people are. And there's some clues and things that they'll give. And most of the time, Tommy, probably 80%, 90% of the time, you have no guess whatsoever. And I've nailed a few of them sometimes. Rob Gronkowski was on a couple years ago. I knew when Gronk was on that it was him. But it was interesting for a couple years, and I kind of grew out of it, and it just kind of got redundant and kind of silly. And I think COVID hit, and then, it wasn't as good. But if the fact that, that's where we're at in this day and age, that somebody threw out the word Tom Brady might be not at camp because he's recording The Masked Singer, and nobody went, that's insane, get out of here. It was like, well, maybe so. That's where we're at with all the special projects, the social media and everything like that that's going on. But we now know he's back in camp and he's not. One last thing before we get out of here, TK, the Savannah Bananas played on ESPN over the weekend. Did you see any of it?
I did not. I watched a lot of Major League Baseball. I watched some of the Saints the other night. Finally, I just had to listen to some music, Ronnie.
Yeah. So anybody who's got the ESPN app, there is a documentary called Banana Land, and it is going to be, I think, a 4 or 5 part documentary. Documentary 1 came out on Friday, so you can watch it right now on your app, and then next Friday will be 2, and so on. The documentary, it's a 1-hour documentary about the making of the Savannah Bananas, which is the hottest social media thing going, over 1 million followers on TikTok and everything else. Go check it out. It's very interesting. I'm actually going to a game on September 2nd. You need to watch it. TK, you need to watch it. You'll love it. And also, they actually played a game on Friday and Saturday on ESPN2 and on the app. And you got a chance to see what Banana Ball is all about. 9 new rules. They play these exhibition games where they have a 2-hour time limit. A fan catches a foul ball, he's out. There's no walks. If it's a walk, it's a sprint, and they have to throw the ball around to the 9 players on defense before they tag them out. It's crazy, but it's also extremely interesting. And it's like I said, it's like the Harlem Globetrotters. So check it out. It's called Banana Land. Sports fans will love it.
Couple things. Don't forget Court Street Cafe in Port Allen. Breakfast, lunch, dinner, 6 days a week. Specials on Thursday, Friday, Saturday. Connect on Facebook and Instagram with Court Street Cafe in Port Allen. And then here's a huge announcement. Hold the Rope with Skip and Cano. It's been a radio show for many years. I always take July and a little bit of August off. It returns to YouTube tomorrow night. You got to subscribe on YouTube to Hold the Rope with Skip and Cano. Every Tuesday, 6 o'clock, starting tomorrow night, the 23rd. Hold the Rope, Skip and Cano. Go subscribe on YouTube. We're going to have tons of announcements tonight and tomorrow all over social media. So please check all of that out. Hold the Rope on YouTube. You got to subscribe and be a part of it. In fact, tomorrow night, the show is going to have Taylor Jacobs. He's the new assistant AD at LSU in charge of NIL. And Ronnie Rance will be on to talk Rougarou, LSU football, and LSU baseball. So Hold the Rope with Skip and Cano back full speed tomorrow night, the 23rd, 6 p.m. Subscribe on YouTube. Byron, Chance, all you folks, Rachel, get out there and subscribe today. Hold the Rope with Skip and Cano on YouTube, and you'll be able to check it out. We'll tell you more about it later this week.
Looking forward also to talking about Everything Matters in Baseball. Coach Bertman's new book that just came out. And I've read about 2 chapters so far. I'll probably read the rest of it before the show tomorrow night. It's only about 50 pages, not very long. It's a great book. That's where you can get it. Go to acadianhouse.com/sports and they'll mail it to you. So looking forward to seeing that and talking with Coach Bert. I actually learned something new. I learned one thing new after reading the book, the first couple of chapters. And that was about the Bon Jovi T-shirt story. So that's what I learned was that there was a spin of that story back in 1989. I didn't quite get it. It's a great story where Coach Bertman wasn't going to allow the players to go to the Bon Jovi concert before the start of the season, and they were all nervous. They bought tickets months in advance, and then at the last minute, day before, he was like, "Hey guys, we're not going to have practice tomorrow because Sandy and I are going to the Bon Jovi concert, so we're going to cancel practice." And that's what he went with. And he didn't tell them that he was going to let them go to the concert. He said, "We're not going to practice because Miss Sandy and I have tickets to the Bon Jovi concert." The players all loved it and went crazy. And anyway, it's a good story. It's in the book. And for those that have seen Hold the Rope, the documentary on ESPN, and you think, well, what's different? There's some new stories. There's a lot more detail. It's a book versus a TV documentary. So there's some things in here. There's quotes from players and all that weren't in Hold the Rope, the documentary on ESPN. So I urge you to go get the book, Everything Matters in Baseball. You can get it at acadianhouse.com/sports. And we'll talk plenty more about it tomorrow with Coach Bertman on his YouTube show, Hold the Rope. All right, we'll be back Wednesday morning for more Sports Shorts Daily. Until then, have a great one, everybody. We'll see you Wednesday morning around 9 o'clock, and we'll talk some LSU baseball. We might know who the quarterback's going to be for LSU by then and a whole lot more. Until then, have a great one.